So a couple of weeks ago, during a pre-coaching chat on the phone with a prospective client, this really nice lady asked me whether I really believed I'd be able to help her. So of course I responded that yes, I was trained and a certified life coach, but she interrupted and said that she didn't dispute my credentials, but that as far as she was concerned, she was not convinced that I'd be able to identify with her feelings of low self-confidence and poor self-esteem. How could someone like me, she said, know what it's like to feel afraid to do something, or even at times hate yourself? Now, it's not unusual for people to make snap judgments about each other, and we all find it a challenge now and then that we don't make these assumptions, which are generally based on our own viewpoint and perception anyway. But it did get me thinking, because I thought if she felt like that, how many other of my clients may have felt the same? So today, what I thought is, rather than waving the NLP banner, I'd share something about myself, which then might help you understand my background and my story, how it led me to become a coach. Okay, so here goes. When I was 15, I became ill, and I mean really ill, and it took me several months and a negligent GP to get me there. But those few weeks changed the course of my life forever, and from that moment on, I was destined to face every day battling ill health. Now, looking back, I was able to draw on a natural resilience, I believe, but then that might just have been my youth for all I know. What I do know is that I certainly didn't have the personal insight into my thinking and behaviour that I have now. And needless to say, back then I'd never even heard of NLP. At the age of 52, my amazing mum gave me one of her kidneys in a bid to save me from living a life on dialysis. Needless to say, we were very, very close. Fast forward to the year before COVID hit and my mum died. I knew I'd miss her, I never realised that feeling would never go away. And even though the time has passed, I just miss her as much now really as I did then, and some days even more so. But one thing is certain, I would not have made it without my mum. It was her gargantuan effort alone that kept me alive, despite being dismissed as a hysterical mother and patronised by a seemingly endless line of incompetent and misogynistic doctors. Her stoic resolve paid off, and she eventually managed to get me seen by someone who could help. I was admitted to hospital and finally diagnosed. Once in the hands of those brilliant people, although by now, without wanting to sound too dramatic about it, I was near death, against the odds they did save my life. So what happened? Well, I was eventually diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that's called Wegener's granulomatosis. No, I'd never heard of it either, but with the swift intervention of hospital doctors, I did make it. And by then, though, unfortunately, my kidneys were so badly damaged that I was cast and my life was changed forever. On top of that, physically, I was also unrecognisable. I weighed less than 7 stone. The medication I'd been given made all my hair fall out. My face was bloated like a football from the steroids that I was prescribed. And I nearly lost all my teeth. The fluid in my joints dried up so that I couldn't walk properly. And perhaps most devastating of all, besides the kidney failure, the Wegeners had destroyed the cartilage in my nose. Now, I looked like I'd been repeatedly punched in the face, quite frankly. I was just 16 and my entire identity had been ripped from me. I missed all my final exams and so emerged from the worst effects of this disease with almost no qualifications and a physical wreck. I tried to tell myself I didn't look that bad, but things really hit home when I went back to school to say hello to my fellow students and teachers. And my form teacher, who had known me for over 5 years, didn't recognise me. And it was then that I finally realised the enormity of what had happened to me. The boy that I'd liked before I fell ill, he didn't really recognise me either. In fact, it was as if I'd become invisible, just looked straight through me. I didn't tell him who I was just too ashamed, to be honest. And I can't blame him really, because in fairness, I had become very, very ugly. I think it was no surprise that I wanted to hide from the world, but that wasn't really a feasible option. For a while I wore a wig and I tried to make the best of that. Eventually my hair did grow back, but I would walk with my head down for the best part of a year, using it sort of like a veil to hide my face. I was ashamed and afraid of what people would say, and rightly so it turned out. I was called pigface on more than one occasion, and some people would stare or bluntly ask questions like who'd beaten me up. And then to top it off, there were rumours flying around my hometown that I was somehow responsible for my own ill health. So some ungenerous rumour, although I have no idea where it came from or why it was circulated. And I think it's fair to say that it was a dark time for me. Age 19, when I'd stopped growing, I was permitted surgery to try and repair my nose. Despite my appearance returning to some semblance of normality, by then the truth was that my self-esteem had been literally eviscerated. So over the next few years, in between hospital visits and taking enough meds to start my own pharmacy, I dug in, I studied my backside off, and I eventually got some basic qualifications. I suffered pretty badly from low confidence, but my heart was set on a career as a professional singer back then. Auditions were pretty hilarious. I had no self-belief, but I'd kept at it, and during my early 20s I did manage to succeed to a degree. I got a contract singing on a cruise ship, and then I spent 6 months performing in a hotel in Japan, and I started to claw my life back. But unfortunately, 10 years after I was first ill, what I was left with in terms of kidney function finally gave out, and everything just stopped at that point. I was forced to come back home, but there was my darling mum waiting for me, ready to give me one of her kidneys so that I did not have to spend my life on dialysis. So there you have it, a small window into my story, which was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I'm in my 50s now, so needless to say that it doesn't end there. For one thing, transplants don't last forever. I don't know if you'd like to know how things turned out for me, or maybe you've heard enough, I don't know. But perhaps you can leave a comment, let me know. What I will say is, I think my story shows that I'm more than able to identify with those who suffer from low confidence and self-esteem issues. I also learned how to turn it around, and I believe the experiences that I've had in my life are why helping other people through mental trauma and working as a coach is so important to me. If my story has inspired you to explore more fully how to deal with things that are causing mental blocks or limiting beliefs, and you think life coaching with NLP might be for you, then all you have to do is use the link that I've added below this video to get in touch. You can make a 30-minute obligation-free appointment with me and we can have a brief chat. And if you just have a general interest in NLP and you'd like to read up a bit on some of the most popular NLP techniques, I've included a link below that will allow you to download a free PDF guide that I've put together for that reason. And don't forget to click subscribe to this YouTube channel and you can get more videos that I post regularly. I hope you can join me again next time for more on NLP and life coaching. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your company and I hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.